What if making an app easier to use actually made people want to use it less? Yeah, you heard that right. Today, we're going to dig into the really surprising psychology behind buy now, pay later services, and a finding that pretty much flips our whole idea of convenience on its head.
You know, we're always told that simpler is better, faster is better, especially in the world of tech. But is that always true? Especially when we're talking about our own money? This one simple question is right at the heart of a fascinating new study. So, to really get our heads around this puzzle, we first need to take a look at this whole new financial world that's just exploding in popularity, especially over in Southeast Asia. And just to give you a sense of the scale we're talking about, that number? That's how much was spent using pay later services just in Indonesian e-commerce, way back in 2020. That one market alone made up almost 60% of all pay later spending in the entire region. It's huge. Okay, so what exactly is this stuff? Well, pay later, or what you might know as buy now, pay later, is basically a form of instant short-term credit. You get your stuff right away, and you pay for it in chunks later on. Simple as that. So who's the main audience for this? It's Gen Z. And when you think about it, it makes perfect sense. They grew up with phones in their hands, they're a massive part of the population in places like Indonesia and Malaysia, and here's the key. A lot of them don't have traditional credit cards. It's kind of the perfect storm for a new way to pay.
And this is where things get really interesting. A brand new study from the journal Cogent Psychology decided to look past all the hype and just ask, what is really going on inside the minds of Gen Z when they decide whether or not to use these payment methods?
So what did they find? Well, the study started out by confirming a couple of things that, probably won't surprise you at all. First off, the service has to actually be useful. I mean, duh, right? Gen Z users need to see that it clearly helps them out, that using pay later makes their shopping better, helps them get things they need, and just makes life a little easier. No big shock there. And second, it has to be trustworthy. Again, pretty obvious. When you're dealing with money and your personal info, trust is everything. Users have to feel like the company is secure, that their data is safe, and that they're not going to get hit with hidden fees. Makes sense.
Okay, but this is where the study takes a really sharp, unexpected turn. The most important finding wasn't what they proved. It was what they disproved. And it's a conclusion that seems to go against everything we think we know about designing modern tech.
I mean, seriously, think about it. The entire goal of almost every app on your phone is to be as smooth and frictionless as possible. One-click checkout, instant access. The whole idea is that convenience is king, right? Well, maybe not.
And there it is, the bombshell finding straight from the study. Let me say that again because it's wild. Perceived ease of use has a negative effect on the intention to use pay later. In plain English, the easier the app seemed to be, the less likely Gen Z was to actually want to use it.
So here it is, the big paradox. For Gen Z, too easy isn't a feature, it's a bug. It's a red flag. It triggers this very real fear of just buying stuff on impulse and totally losing control of their finances. It's almost like they know, instinctively, that a little bit of friction, a little pause is actually a good thing. It puts back what psychologists call the pain of paying, that you feel when you hand over cash. That little natural break that all these frictionless apps are designed to get rid of.
But, okay, does this weird psychological quirk show up the same way everywhere? Well, the study compared Indonesia and Malaysia, and it found that while that fear of too easy was there in both places, the markets themselves are actually very different.
You can see the difference in just sheer scale right here. Again, this is back in 2020, but Indonesia had more than double the number of pay later users as Malaysia. It's just a much, much more developed market for these kinds of services. And it wasn't just about how many people were already using it. The research confirmed that the basic desire, the intention to use these services, was way higher among Gen Z in Indonesia than it was for their peers over in Malaysia.
So let's step back. What's the big takeaway from all this? This isn't just some interesting little fact for a research paper. It has real-world consequences for how we design, how we regulate, and how we use financial tech. So for us as consumers, it's this great reminder to, be aware of the trade-offs. For the companies making this stuff, it shows that building real trust through being open and secure is way more important than just having a slick, mindlessly easy checkout. And for governments, it's a big blinking light that says, hey, we need some clear rules to protect this new generation of consumers.
And all of this leaves us with one last really crucial question for our frictionless world. As technology just keeps making everything easier and easier, what's the real value of a little difficulty?
And what kind of guardrails do we need to build, not in our apps, but for ourselves?